Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Friday. Merry Christmas. You like my Snoopy hat? Those of you in the chat, should I keep the hat? Should I let the hat go? I didn't comb my hair today. Does that matter with as little hair as I got? Gray hair. I kind of like it with hat off, but I'm going to keep it on. I want to get in the Christmas holiday mood. Happy Friday. We have a jam-packed, action-packed show for you today. I need not waste time because we got Steve Kim, we got Matt McChesney, we got Jason Brown, Coach JB, and there's a lot of different things I want to get to, and I need to stick to the schedule. We're also going to do Harmony today, so a lot of content coming your way over the next 3 hours, maybe 2 hours here on Fearless, 30, 45 minutes on the Harmony channel. Let me give you a little preview. The Dallas Cowboys got the brakes beat off of them last night and embarrassed me. The Lions won 44-30. I'll start there with some thoughts on that game. Steve Kim will join me in that conversation. Steve and I will also talk about Max Kellerman's interview with Stephen A. Smith. I mean, not Max Kellerman's interview with Bill Simmons, where they touched on some Stephen A. Smith topics. Of course, I have something to say about that. Steve and I will also talk about some initiatives the White House is sponsoring and pushing, trying to get their arms around all the foreign money flowing into college athletics and how it jeopardizes Olympic sports and some of the non-traditional sports. Just can't let any and all money come into college athletics. We'll talk about that. Then Matt McChesney will join us, and we'll talk about Colorado football and Colorado athletics being $27 million in debt, despite the great Deion Sanders. Colorado has also hired Sacramento State's head coach, a guy by the name of Brennan Marion, to be their offensive coordinator. I think this may be their third OC in 3 years as Deion keeps trying to reinvent his offense. We'll talk with McChesney about that. And, Matt's also saying that Deion's assistant coaches are getting a 20% pay cut. Maybe that's to pay for Brennan Marion, who knows. Then we'll bring on Coach JB, and we don't know where that conversation will go. I'll probably start him off with George Pickens and his performance last night. So a lot to get to. I need you, those of you listening over Apple, to make sure you hit that 5-star rating. That's how we fight the algorithm and grow the channel. It's one of the great things you can do for us. The greatest thing you can do for us is support the organization that supports us and supports our worldview that life begins at conception, and that is preborn. And there's no better time when you start your Christmas shopping list and who you owe a thank you and a gift to. You know who it is. It's our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And the best gift I believe you can give him this holiday season is a donation to Preborn, an organization that protects children in their mother's womb. It's an organization that educates mothers who don't understand that the greatest gift the world has to give, that God has to give, is that baby in her womb. Maybe she's considering an abortion. Preborn provides that lady, that young woman, an ultrasound. That ultrasound introduces that baby's heartbeat, an image of that baby to the mother, and now she starts to fully grasp, like, wow, what a gift I have inside of me. And that's when those women now are twice as likely to choose life, and that's when Preborn says, hey, we got you here, baby girl. We got you and the baby for up to 2 years. Preborn provides that mother the support she needs to start that baby's life journey on a high note, on a positive note. And they do it because you, me, everybody in the sound of my voice, we donate to Preborn. Each ultrasound is $28. 5 ultrasounds, $140. The money we give pays for ultrasounds, not for mid-level executives to get a summer home or take some vacation. It actually pays for ultrasounds. You want to put a smile on your Savior's face. Do right now. Pick up your smartphone, dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, say the keyword baby, or give the way that I prefer to give, preborn.com/fearless. That's preborn.com/fearless. All right. Thank you, Preborn. Put a smile on God's face. Donate. Let's get to today's show and our first topic. Steve Kim, Thursday Night Football. I was all fired up. Cowboys, Lions, playoff hopes on the line, must-win game for both teams. Steve, I got to say it, and I thought the game was trash. And it's 44-30, 74 points. I thought it was trash. I thought the effort by the Cowboys was one of the most suspect things I've ever seen, particularly George Pickens. But if you watch both sides of the ball, the Dallas Cowboys, I've never seen defensive backs and linebackers and defensive ends fall down so easily. If Jahmyr Gibbs made the hint of a move, Cowboys just fell down like dominoes all around the place. I thought it was a trash game. I thought the officiating was trash. It was disappointing. And then, obviously, I'm most disappointed with the Cowboys. They're fraudulent. They're not a real threat. Their defense is absolute trash. And then the best part of the game, actually, and I'm going to give Richard Sherman the first say here before I even get to you, was I thought Richard Sherman's post-game comments where he called out George Pickens. And we can talk about the game, but we can also talk about I got to say it, and I'm not a fan. Richard Sherman's a hell of a broadcaster, and I love the Amazon show. Anyway, here's Richard Sherman trashing George Pickens.
George Pickens throughout the game, especially late in the game, just looked uninterested in playing football. You know, and that's what you can't have. If you're going to be a superstar, if you want to be the best receiver in the National Football League, you can never be disengaged. It doesn't matter if the game's going your way or not going your way. You can't just disappear in these games or else you're not going to have impact. And just right here, cruising routes. You're the guy. You're the guy. CeeDee Lamb is not in this game. He's out, and you get intercepted on your slant routes, and you can't be the guy and half-ass it. I'm sorry, that's just, you can't, it's unacceptable. And if you're the Dallas Cowboys and you're looking at him and you're looking to pay him big-time receiver money, $40 million, you got to look at this tape and say, hey, is this a guy we can trust paying $40 million to show up regardless of circumstance? I don't know.
Let's be clear here. The Lions and the Cowboys play every Thanksgiving. I mentioned that point to say they had a full week to prepare for this game. This isn't, hey, we just played on Sunday and now we're playing on Thursday. The last time they played was on Thursday of Thanksgiving. The effort from the Cowboys, particularly George Pickens, was embarrassing. Your thoughts on last night's game?
A couple things. First of all, as a peanut Snoopy connoisseur, your hat. Good grief. All right, now to the game. I like scoring. I like high scores. I like shootouts. I actually thought it was an entertaining game. But to your point, yeah, Everson Walls, Mel Renfro, and Kevin Smith, certainly not Darren Woodson. They ain't walking through that door. And we thought that there was an improvement in the Dallas defense that ended up being a mirage on the road. Detroit more or less looked like the last 2 years. Goff got rid of the ball early. But, Jason, as it relates to George Pickens, this is going to be the conflict within the confines of the front office of the Dallas Cowboys. Pickens is a roller coaster. There's ups and there's downs. He's been spectacular for much of this year. In fact, you could say at times he's been the clear number one above CeeDee Lamb, but this goes all the way back to his days at the University of Georgia. There's going to be issues where, as you like to say, he goes back to factory settings. So he's going to have moments like this more than once throughout the year. So that now the question becomes, okay, are we paying for the 12 to 13 games a year where he's spectacular and sensational? And how do we then buttress that against the other 3-4 times a year when it's that?
Listen, you can't invest in that. And anybody that was like blaming Mike Tomlin, blaming the Pittsburghs for walking away from George Pickens. Well, how you like me now? I think Pittsburgh looks justified. I don't know what the issues are. I hate to speculate, but these guys are always talking about their mental health. They're always, the guy this isn't a mental diagnosis. It's an adjective. He looks bipolar on the football field. You just never know what you're going to get. You go into a Thursday night showcase game with massive playoff implications, and this guy no-shows you. And so either maybe it's performance pressure, the lights are too bright, and he can't handle it. But I'm not building anything around someone that is that unreliable and would no-show that game. Part two, and because I find this fascinating, I think Richard Sherman is a hell of a broadcaster, and I said this last week, or I said it the week before. The Amazon crew is the best in football right now, and to me, they're the closest thing to inside the NBA. It's funny. A lot of the conversation is authentic, and it's not what you would get from other networks. They got the cool guy in Tony Gonzalez. They got the outspoken guy in Richard Sherman. They got the funny guy in Ryan Fitzpatrick. They got the meat and potatoes guy in Andrew Whitworth. And they got some of the best eye candy in sports television history, who actually does a great job of facilitating the conversation. She does both jobs well, in Carissa Thompson. Anyway, your thoughts?
Yeah, I like the fact Richard Sherman, there's one thing, there's always like this athletic code that, hey, we played, so we got to be a little easier on the athletes. I like the fact that Richard Sherman, and if you were to compare this to inside the NBA, there's no doubt he's Charles Barkley. He is the guy that's going to go out there, and if there's a bus to be thrown under, he will throw you under the bus, and he will back it up time and time and time again. I actually turned off the game as soon as it was over. I missed all of that, and I caught it later on Twitter. I'm thinking, wow. You really think about it, Jason, how many other commentators, whether at the studio desk or calling the game from the booth, would have enough guts just to make an observation like that? Because there were times, Jason, in that game, they panned over to George Pickens on the bench, and you're right, he looked checked out. Like he was there, but he wasn't there. And I'm thinking, can someone tell him to snap out of it? This is kind of a playoff game for the Cowboys, but this is what my theory on a lot of athletes that get into the media space is that they do not understand at a certain point, this is not a popularity contest. And there's going to come a point in time where you're going to say something that everyone's going to hear, and then someone from that athlete is going to relay that message. Can you handle the heat of someone either confronting you online or saying, hey, I didn't like what you said, or even probably worse, ruining a relationship? Long ago, Charles Barkley realized one thing, especially as he got older. I have nothing in common with these guys. In fact, I don't even like the new guys. And guess what, Jason? It's his greatest weapon.
I can't believe that I'm sitting here championing Richard Sherman. The guy's never liked me. He's one of these Northern California natives. He's from South Central, but he went to Stanford, I think, and believes he probably got 11, 1,200 SAT and thinks he's a genius or whatever. But I got to give him credit. The guy's a hell of a broadcaster, and I had very low expectations. I got it. Nice job, Richard Sherman. I'm not pandering. I don't want you to like me. I don't care if we see each other. I know you probably think it's on site, but, whatever. Final thought here. We'll circle it back to football. Are the Cowboys done?
Well, maybe not mathematically, but all of the improvement we thought that they were making, it was a mirage. It was like that thirsty man in the desert that thought he saw an oasis, and it turned out to be a leaky faucet. And there's an alarming thing. We knew the Cowboys' defense was going to struggle. You know where they really lost the game? To me, it was the special teams. Every time they had a chance to get back to momentum, they kicked the ball off. Yes. And we're seeing white Mel Gray. Every time Kennedy would bring the ball back to midfield, and guys, you already have a bad defense. The defense does not get any better when the ball starts at midfield. Now, overall, I got to give Jerry Jones still a little credit. I like the future of this team overall. They still got to help the defensive side of the ball. But going into the offseason, if it's an honest front office, even with the production, they got to have meetings saying, okay, guys, if we're going to pay George Pickens, how much? How much? Because say what you want about George Pickens, though, Jason, for much of this season, he has been spectacular at times. He's actually opened my eyes a little bit.
I agree. There's something in that locker room and in that performance that I see throughout professional sports. Steve, I'm fearless, and the show's fearless, so I'm just going. There's something, and this isn't for today, but I'm just going to whet people's appetite. There's something going on with black athletes, man. They don't love these games. They don't. It's the money that, because you brought up the whole special teams deal, and that was part of the big problem. This special team, no one wanted to hit anybody on the kickoff team. No one wanted to hit anybody on kickoff coverage, and it changed field position throughout that entire game. And that it's those details. And when I see Cowboys just falling all over, I just saw a half-hearted effort, and it's the kind of thing. Again, I need to end this because there's other things I want to talk about. So I'm not asking you to respond to this, but it's no different than LeBron James last night. Because Luka Doncic wasn't there, he actually played hard and cared. But when Luka is there, his play is inconsistent. This whole professional sports have totally turned into what can you do for me and how much money I can make. No one, or virtually no one, seems to be playing for the love of the game, and you can see it, and that's what I didn't like last night. From George Pickens to the people on the Cowboys defense to the lack of special teams effort, no one cared. That's a problem for professional sports, and it seems to be an acute problem for, I'm just sorry, for black athletes. So go whine someplace else. It's a fact, and at some point I'll unpack that into more detail. Steve, I want to keep it moving. Max Kellerman was on with Bill Simmons on his podcast. Max is out touring now and seeming to take some shots back at Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith, when Max was down and silenced and gagged and playing out his non-compete and his contract, Stephen A. was running around telling everybody, how bad Max was and how he didn't need Max. It looks like Max is getting some get back. And so I'm going to play two or three of these clips here, and then you and I will react to them overall. Let's start with shot number 2. This is Max Kellerman talking about how much better of a debater he was than Stephen A. Smith. Shot 2.
If you're doing a debate show and you're a competitive person, why would you want me as a partner? That's bad. You want to go 15 rounds every day with Muhammad Kellerman? That's just bad. It's embarrassing,
So you think that was part of it? He didn't want to put the time in? Or just wanted a different type of show? What's your take looking back 2 years later?
I don't think it has to do with put the time in. It's, it's a debate show.
You're ready to roll on all topics.
You want to if you're, I have an idea. This is what I want to put on TV. I want to spar Bud Crawford every day for 15 rounds, and I want everyone to see it. Eventually, you're going to say, I don't want to do that anymore.
And you bring in some other people in a rotating cast.
Yeah. That's one aspect of it. There are others. In other words, that's what I could tell you from my point of view.
Yeah.
And I also think that if you make a calculation, that if you can be perceived as a solo act, really, that you can get paid at a certain level that you can't if you're not a solo act, then you'd like to be a solo act, or at least perceived that way.
Let's start there. He's basically arguing, and Bill Simmons called him out on it, and Max backed away from it, probably didn't want to say it. But Bill Simmons is right because he knows enough about Stephen A. Smith that Stephen A. Smith doesn't want to put the work in. He wants to show up and just be a personality. And Max kind of went on and explained this later in the interview. I don't know if we have that full clip. But Bill Simmons is like, hey, Stephen A. was too lazy to debate with you on a consistent basis. And Stephen A. has this perception, I'm the hardest working man in sports media. And what that means is right before the cameras come on, I'll show up and talk and do my whole Stephen A. shtick with anybody. But in terms of preparation and things like that, that has never been Stephen A.'s forte, and it's why he was always outmatched trying to debate Max Kellerman. Your thoughts?
I think the phrase that we're looking for as it relates to Stephen A. Smith's knowledge across the board, a mile wide, but only an inch deep. And I get it. I actually believe it's very difficult to be an expert in all things. And when Stephen A. made his ascension and when he had, I thought, more credibility as a voice, He was basically NBA. And I've told you this, back in the early 2000s when I first heard of him, and he was really a guy that was connected to the city of Philadelphia, and namely Allen Iverson, when he would do hits, I actually found it interesting, believe it or not. But when you start doing, okay, football, then basketball, then he tried to do combat sports, and he was terrible at it, okay? And then baseball, and you're wondering, how much baseball do you watch? I do think that there's a point of diminishing returns. But to Max's point, Max, don't flatter yourself. You're not the greatest. You're not Terrence Crawford. You even admitted yourself, you're bashing a tomato can every single day. So let's not crown yourself Sugar Ray Robinson here, okay?
I totally agree with that he beat up a baby seal, and it's no different that Stephen A. runs around. I've had the #1 morning show for 13 straight years. And he never mentions, well, I've had no competition either for 13 straight years. There was one startup network called FS1, and it's a startup network. And so it wasn't a real competition, but he never tells you who's number 2, 3, 4. He's acting like, he took on Oprah Winfrey and Bill O'Reilly and Tucker Carlson in their prime. But let me keep it moving to go ahead.
Yeah, but Jason, it also shows you, no one could put a black man in his place like a white liberal. I mean, my God, you've talked about this, how years ago you were kind of like, there was like this, maybe an opportunity for you to work with Max, and some guy said, don't do it. Don't do it. Because here's the problem, and I want to defend Stephen A. a little bit. In that era when they were doing that show, with the political and cultural climate of America, you have this white guy just out-woking you every single day. And maybe his, whatever his views are, you're thinking, oh my God, I got to compete with this guy, trying to like be down. And it puts you in an untenable spot because no matter what you say, there's always going to be a group of people that disagree with you, anybody. But if this guy here is just taking every position of, hey, I'm down with you, oh my God, I could see why Stephen A. got really wary of that whole situation.
I want to buttress your point, but let me play this clip that I think helps set up that point. Let's play SOT 3.
Stephen A. has no hot takes. Stephen A. almost never, I can't think of any counterintuitive conclusions that he ever reaches. That's not his job on the air. His job is to be the big reactor to a counterintuitive conclusion. Reactor. He's there to hear the crazy conclusion that his partner has come to and actually be the everyman with a loud voice. Like, you are crazy, right? And do it theatrically. So there's a lot of pressure on his partner to come up with a counterintuitive conclusion about everything.
And we're only playing a little 30, 40-second excerpt. You got to hear the whole full 2, 3, 4 minutes of that to fully get what Max is saying. But he's right that he was on air debating with someone who flunked 4th grade and who had to leave New York to find a college that would accept him under any circumstances and go down to Winston-Salem State. He's not debating his intellectual equal. That is one thing. And then the point that you make is that Max got his rocks off, for lack of a better description, out-blacking Stephen A. Smith on his own show in a rigged environment where Jack Dorsey owned Twitter, and Twitter was very rigged towards every woke positioner, hey, the police are out mass killing white people, and, it's just rigged woke. And so he's in a rigged fight where if he just takes the black Twitter position, Stephen A. is going to look bad. And I don't blame Stephen A. Smith for being frustrated by that. There's nothing worse than some white guy who is determined to prove to the Twitterverse and everybody else how much blacker they are than you. Stephen A. didn't have the intellectual capacity or really the balls to put Max in his place. Because, trust me, I think far more conservatively in what is seen as sellout positions, far more than Stephen A. Smith. But trust me, I'd have no problem, none, just dicing up Max Kellerman like, hey, man, we ain't doing that. You ain't gonna come on here and pretend like you blacker than me. I'd have just called him out on it in real time and walked him through like all the liberals, white, Jewish people that do this. I mean, it would have just gotten real. Stephen A. can't do that. And so Max got to play the limousine liberal, and Stephen A. had no comeback, and Terrell Owens jumped on him and all this. And I just want to be crystal clear. I like Max. But you put Max in a ring with someone that flunked fourth grade and barely had to travel 2,000 miles to get invited into some poor college. This is what he's going to beat up and bully Stephen A. and put Stephen A. in a bad position. It was a bad combination on a number of levels. Max is a high-level intellectual. Stephen A. Smith is not. Max loves to play the extra black. Hey, me and the black guys, we smoke weed together. And Max is a former rapper as a kid. He's the Eminem of sports talk. And so anyway, go finish your points on that. I just wanted to play that clip.
I just have a question. Who gives less hot takes than a liberal who just panders all the time to that side of the fence, who's a leftist? I mean, say what you want about Stephen A. Smith. At least he says some stuff that he eventually walks back because he doesn't have a lot of courage that goes against the grain. That is a hot take. Some of the people that he stood up for, some of the people that he's criticized. Now, again, he walks it back because he doesn't have the courage of his convictions and he feels the heat. I get that. But there's nobody that gives less hot takes than the liberal who all they do is pander, knowing that they're going to get support just because it's anti-establishment, anti-white, anti-conservative.
Here's where I would defend Max. You know, he believes this stuff that he says as it relates to his liberal politics. Because, again, you know, Max is Ivy League educated. And a lot of the Ivy League guys, they don't rely on real life experience. They rely on, hey, we set up this hypothetical situation in a laboratory, and this is what we think will happen. And they really believe this stuff. And then there are people like, again, this is how they, in some college, lab room, campus setting, auditorium, a lot of things that they say about the police and interaction with black people, it all makes sense in that debate on a college campus. But when you're someone like me, whose father owned a bar on 38th Street in Indianapolis in the hood, and that was your favorite place on earth, and you visited there all the time, and you actually saw what really happened and why my father and all of his friends carried 38s or Magnums or whatever. It wasn't, oh, I'm so afraid of the police. It was like, nah, man, Pookie and them might act a fool, and I may have to pull this thing out. That's the reality. And so, but again, a lot of these limousine liberals, they've never lived in the reality. They've read books about it. They've watched documentaries about it, but they have no idea what it's like on a day-to-day basis. And in that laboratory, in that college lab, a lot of the silly things they say make sense. They don't pass the reality test. And then you get a lot of these limousine liberal Negroes as well that have no real life experience in these environments that they're talking about. And it all sounds good to them. Yeah, it's the police the police this. It's because they've never lived next door or set up a business next door to Ray and Pookie.
Nor will they. Nor will they.
Nor will they. Yeah, nor
will they.
Last thing. Here was the other thing that I really found interesting, and this is probably my own narcissism, but Max talked briefly, and I think we really cut it down, but he talked briefly about how working with Stephen A. was the only time he didn't develop a real relationship with someone he worked with. Play SOT 4.
It's interesting because Stephen A. was the one partner I've ever had over like years.
Yeah.
Where I didn't feel like a relationship was really forming.
Okay.
That's a short clip, but I'm going to tell you what I find fascinating about this is I can't believe, and Steve, correct me if this is my narcissism, please.
Mm-hmm.
But Bill Simmons and Max Kellerman, two guys I know, two guys that I used to be friends with, friendly, I would say, with Bill Simmons, friends with Max Kellerman. How does Bill Simmons not say, hey, man, that's interesting you say that you couldn't develop a relationship with Stephen A. Smith. Whitlock's been saying a lot of stuff about Stephen A.'s background being fraudulent. What do you know about that? And what do you think of his feud with Jason Whitlock? He's put out two just total meltdowns. Whitlock seems to strike his funny bone, and all the questions seem to be about the fraudulence of Stephen A.'s background. Did he keep you and others at bay because he might be afraid that you figured out that, oh, he wasn't a college basketball player? I just don't understand how this line of questioning doesn't come up. Is that my narcissism?
Not completely, although you are a narcissist at times. There's no doubt about that. But here's the thing. You are still persona non grata to a lot of people. And in that sphere, I don't think the name or the phrase Jason Whitlock is allowed to come up. I really don't. Even if they're so-called independent, even if they own their own media entities, they want to make you disappear. In fact, they want to be Stalin. They want to erase you from history, right? But here's another thing, Max, and I get it. This is right. I don't really take a side here, but Max, maybe he didn't like you. Maybe after days and days of hearing you doing your little routine and, hey, I'm going to be down, maybe Stephen A's like, I don't like this guy. Guess what? Not everyone has to like you. You don't have to be. You don't. No, not everyone has to like you, even your coworkers.
I'm not saying you have to. But look, man, when you're doing a television show and you're making millions of dollars for doing a television show, you should put some effort into connecting with your coworker. You should. It's like,
well,
hey, me and Cowherd had some dinners, drinks together. Hey, how's your wife doing? Tell me about your daughter. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, Whitlock, how's your family doing? Blah, blah, blah. Me and Marcellus certainly socialized together. The whole group of guys that we used to have on Speak for Yourself, from Jimmy Jackson to LeVar Arrington to Marcel, we'd go out and socialize at Wally's and other places together.
Okay, but a couple things. If Hall & Oates can break up, nothing is sacred. I'm just telling you. But here's the difference. You actually genuinely like those people. Okay, and I think a lot of those people that you just named, you personally handpicked and say, okay, you're a part of our crew. Speak for yourself, right?
He picked Max.
Right, and he probably regretted it, and then he got rid of Max. He's allowed to do that. There have been a lot of successful unions. It gets to a point where overall, you leave that toilet seat up one too many times, it's a divorce. It happens. It happens.
Here's what Max is arguing is, I think, and I may be putting thoughts, words, it's like the man never even made an effort. Like, to me, Max, loves boxing, big deal on boxing. I went to Max's house, and we didn't work together. It's just like, hey, Max loves boxing. I watched the fight at Max. I don't remember which fight, but I watched it at Max's house. Met his wife, the whole nine. You just do that. And what he's basically saying is, like, with Stephen A. Smith, Stephen A. Smith, to me, has only, in my view, and I'm speculating here, but if you even look at what Stephen A. Smith and how phony his relationship with Shannon Sharpe is, and as soon as that business thing dried up, these guys basically, aren't pretending anymore. The only guy Stephen A's ever connected with was Skip Bayless, another weirdo who has some fantasy story about his high school basketball coach and how they targeted him, or Skip would have been an all-state basketball player. It's like these guys with these crazy backgrounds and lies. Because just remember, like, Jalen Rose called out, what do you call him, Pistol something? He called Little Pistol Pete or whatever he called Stephen A. Smith about his fraudulent basketball background. Stephen A. has a fraudulent basketball background and a lot of other fraudulence attached to him. I side with Max here. I think what Max is arguing is, like, there was no effort to connect personally. It was, hey, I'm doing you a favor. Come on air and come up with hot takes and let me react to it. I'm going to show up right before the lights come on, right before they turn the cameras on, and that's it.
Okay, I know I'm going to risk being called Stephen A. Kim here. However, over a course of time, if we're doing a show and we're face to face and this guy's just giving you stuff, you're like, oh God, you got to listen to this liberal pablum and all this, like you said, the liberal limousine liberal vocabulary or glossary, and you're just like, my God. Now, the last thing you want to do if you're that person, especially with Stephen A's ego and his bombast, is to actually have to listen to that outside the time you're getting paid to. Oh, there's a reason why they call it free time, because you want a peace of mind. You want that time to be free. I don't want to have to pay the expense of listening to that off the air.
Steve, I gotta squeeze in one more topic before we get to Matt McChesney. Donald
Big
Trump,
Matt, love Big Matt.
Yeah, and the White House share a concern that I share, and it's about the influx of foreign money into college sports, and they are trying to promote an awareness campaign about how all of this foreign money flowing into football and maybe a little bit into college basketball and in name, image, and likeness, that eventually it's going to hurt the Olympic non-revenue sports and just college sports in general. I me and you, we're college football fans. We used to really love college basketball. Now we watch it, maybe at the Final Four or during the NCAA tournament, but these rising costs and escalating NIL deals and all this other stuff, I think, and now this influx of foreign money can really change the nature of college athletics and be a corrosive force in just American culture. I want to tip my hat to the White House and to people that are trying to raise awareness about, like, hey, we need to come up with some rules and regulations about how much foreign money we're going to allow in to influence American sports culture.
Yeah, accuse me of being a jingoist or jingoism, but I mean, at what point is American sports going to stay American? If you ever look at any other industry that starts to let the infiltration of money, power, and influence into their companies, and then how it starts to really seep into the American culture, it's in certain messaging, the content itself, it is insidious. Jason, let me give you an example. I think we've talked about this, or you certainly have. The NBA with China, Disney with their foreign influences, and they start putting out these anti-American messages. So yes, it is a concern that American sports should be owned and operated and run by and financed by, guess what? America. And so I don't get this. And there is a particular booster at Texas Tech. I believe his name is Cody Campbell. He is trying to write legislation. He's trying to get everyone together saying, hey, I'm a football player. I played for Mike Leach, and I'm a large part of the NIL situation at Texas Tech, and they put together a very expensive, good roster. They're going to be in the playoffs, right? And he has said also, well, wait a minute, I understand the big picture. What we're doing here is going to ruin every other sports to a point. What is college sports just supposed to be about basketball and football? And look, I'm not a guy that watches gymnastics or volleyball or anything else, but I understand why those sports do exist and why they should exist to a certain degree, right? This is a slippery slope when American entities start to give up control of their industries.
And the other thing that he's probably not arguing, because he doesn't want people to feel sorry for him, but he's sitting there like, hey, man, I bleed Oklahoma State. I played here. This is a passion for me. At Texas Tech, I'm sorry. At some point, somebody from Saudi Arabia or some other foreign country is going to write a much bigger check than I write. And the next thing you know, some Saudi sheik has more influence over Texas Tech football than I do. And so Jason Whitlock, sitting here, who's now, frustrated with Ball State or whatever. And so, but back when I wasn't frustrated with Ball State, I wouldn't want some foreign entity. I wouldn't want some guy from Texas who never played at Ball State to have more influence over Ball State football than I do, and over the Ball State athletic program than I do. This is, at some point, because I've been thinking about this for a while, like Congress, our lawmakers are going to have to get involved with sports because sports don't seem to be able to police themselves. All that Lane Kiffin and everybody else seems to care about, and I'm picking on Lane, but I'll throw Nick Saban in here, and I know he's out of coaching. But all these guys seem to care about is, how can I make more? Can I get up to $20 million a year as a head coach? Can I get my offensive coordinator up to $2 to $3 million a year? More. No one cares about the actual health of the game, the health of American culture, and it's like, where is the money coming from? No one seems to care, and eventually what you're talking about, and this project I think is called Protect the Pipeline, eventually what you're talking about is like the women on the volleyball team, the guys on the swim team, the guys on the wrestling team, if they even have wrestling programs still, the track and field out, they're no longer going to be able to exist at all, and just so some Saudi sheik can control college football and college basketball and continue to influence American culture.
I can see it now. 2030 national title game, Miami, Ohio State, and Qatar. Gonna book my flights. Can't wait. Gonna be fun.
I didn't I just read somewhere where they're talking about playing college basketball games in Dubai. I think I just read that, and yeah,
Jason,
NFL's playing games everywhere. Yeah.
Jason, last year, about 12 months ago, remember I was in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh,
yes,
for a card. Remember I did a segment there during the college football playoff first round. I had to watch the games when I got back home. Yeah. Great card.
How was the food,
the main event was Alexander Usyk in the rematch against Tyson Fury. Very plush. I mean, one thing that I noticed, Jason, is Mario and I, shout out to Mario Lopez, we're driving through. We get picked up, VIP treatment, because I'm with Mario Lopez, let's be honest. And the thing that was very evident to me was the Western influence, because as you're driving down, it's all these gleaming new buildings, but every single thing I saw was Burger King, the coffee company, Starbucks. I was like, wow, but it's just newer, nicer, bigger, shinier. So we get to the fight and we're watching it, good fight card, and we're like, okay, great. And I'm thinking, wow, this is pretty good. Here's the issue, though. Over a course of time, and people have talked about this, and I kind of get it. I'm either way, because boxing's done this to itself. When you start to allow too many events that are supposedly American or should be American-centric, that one had 2 foreign fighters. The problem is, now at a certain point, the American boxing market, it is struggling. Because guess what? More and more of the more important fights are not happening in this country. Now, I'm kind of like 50-50 on it, because the way I look at it, some of these bouts would not happen unless Turki Al-Sheikh financed them. So, but again, do you want college football and the NFL and basketball to go down that route? I'm not so sure you do.
Steve, great job. Thank you, as always. Guys, I want to talk a quick second about another one of our primary sponsors, one that I use on a daily basis. And then let's get Matt McChesney ready, because we'll go straight to him out of this. But Relief Factor, you guys hear me talk about this all the time. You've probably seen the commercials. You probably sit there and think, man, I should do that, and then you don't. And because no one explains to you, like, hey, look, for $19.95, for that $20 bill wasting away in your pocket right now, you can try Relief Factor for 3 weeks. Relief Factor is 100% drug-free daily supplement that fights inflammation. I know a lot of you guys know about inflammation. You're like me, you get older and you start suffering from it, and it causes those little aches and pains, and next thing you know, hey man, I can't take that 3-mile walk I used to take. I'll take a 1.5-mile walk. and you start making hey, I won't go on that hike that my wife wants me to go on to. I'm just aching, too many aches and pains. There is a potential solution, and it's Relief Factor. The 3-week quick start gives you an opportunity to find out if Relief Factor works for you. 70% of the people that try the 3-week quick start circle back and re-up for the full package because they're already experiencing the benefits. I've been using it to help me work out. I've told you multiple times about Jeffrey Steele, my great friend, the Hall of Fame country music songwriter and singer. He's 64 years old, bikes 30 miles every morning because he takes Relief Factor. You should give it a try. It's just $19.95, $20. $20, you can find out if there's some relief for your inflammation pain. Call 1-800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800-4RELIEF, the number 4RELIEF, or visit relieffactor.com. Is McChesney ready to roll? Matt McChesney is ready to roll. Let's bring in Matt. And Matt, we've been talking about money, and that's what I want to talk with you about as it relates to Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. I saw on your show, you and your co-host were talking about that Deion is going to, or Colorado's going to slash assistant coaching salaries 20%, that's kind of the punishment for a 3-9 season. Is that accurate?
No, my sources have informed me that was the plan for the coaches that are going to be, staying on staff. Obviously, they went out and hired Marion yesterday from Sac State and the Go-Go offense to run the offensive coordinator, and they've got to pay Sacramento State $1.4 million to get him plus his salary. So I don't know how much faith I put in the deficit article. I'm not saying it's not true. I don't know, but I do know that they're trying to compete financially with everybody out there in the world, and football's expensive. I think that the docking of the assistant coach's pay. I mean, I'm not going to say he's not right to do it. I mean, I don't think the assistants lived up to the billing, especially some of the names on the staff and whatnot, especially the recruiting department and the transfer portal people that are in charge of that. When Coach Prime was out and sick, I felt like the evaluations they weren't the same as the year before, where they had the number one transfer portal class. So I will say this. I was advocating for change. I didn't think it would happen, and it did. So I'm excited about that. And maybe this is a sign that some of the power is being relinquished a little bit, and they can move in a direction where, somebody else can run the offense, and Coach Prime can keep his hands off of it and just CEO and head coach. And this could be a very positive step in the right direction, in my opinion.
Do you think Pat Shurmur, who was relieved of play calling duties midway through the season, do you think he stays with the staff, or does he leave now that they've hired an offense? He's gone.
I'm sure that he'll be gone. I would almost be positive that, Pat's been an NFL head coach, an NFL coordinator. He's been in the game for so long. I'd imagine that Pat will step back for a year or two and figure out if he still wants to keep coaching, especially in the landscape we find ourselves in. Kleiman stepping away, Saban stepping away, so many of these older coaches stepping away, especially from college football. Because, honestly, if you're an established coach and with your pension and you got grandkids and stuff, you don't want to deal with a lot of the Wild West aspects of college football these days. This is what I do for a living at 6-0 Football Academy, and I'm partnered up with Esquire Sports, who represents a ton of guys in the portal, and this is what we do. And it is literally the Wild West. There are no rules. Tampering is legal. Just coaches tampering with players reaching out to coaches. Just the amount of lies and bull crap that I hear on a daily basis, just to try and convince a kid to go here or there to help boost recruiting numbers. It's ridiculous. So the system is broken. So I can't imagine that Pat would want to go try and continue in the system that, is broken. It's not very fun if you're an old school coach.
And so you referenced the $27 million deficit in the athletic department
Yes, sir.
And I listened to you on your show and heard you now. You're not completely buying that?
I mean, I'm not saying that there's not a deficit, but since Coach Prime walked into Boulder, I mean, the amount of money that program has made and just the city of Boulder and the state of Colorado is astronomical. So, I mean, he's not in charge of the books. But somebody in the athletic department is, and I don't know who that person is, but it's unacceptable to have a $27 million deficit at this point of the prime era, especially after last year. I understand this year was not up to snuff, and 3-9 is not what we're looking for, and it was a terrible season. I get that, but the stadium was still sold out. I mean, the pictures that everybody see of an empty stadium are after ass beatings. At the beginning of they're sold out to the brim. They're selling merchandise. They've got money coming from everywhere. And the donors have never donated more. They've never donated more to the NIL. There's plenty of money in the coffers to play the players. Excuse me. Obviously, they've got enough money to go hire a head coach away from Sac State and have to pay Sac State 1-4. So I'm not saying it's not real. I also wouldn't be surprised, because I haven't really heard about a lot of other deficit stories around the country. And I hate that I have to say this, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was leaked intentionally just to, drum up some kind of like, hey, look, we're struggling financially here, to have something else, to kind of throw the 3-9 on. And I'm not saying he leaked it, but that place has leaks. I mean, I'm not going to give away my sources by any means, but there are people up there that are known to leak, and they've got their own propaganda machine, and a lot of podcasts and a lot of people talking and a lot of people with inside information. So there's so many avenues to get information out into the world that can portray one thing, but in actuality, if something else has happened. If you have a $27 million deficit in the athletic department and you're slashing coaches' salaries, which I stand by that quote, my source is pretty rock solid. How can you afford to go pay 1-4 plus a new salary to a coach? And, it doesn't add up to me. So I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying it is. I don't know. I'm sure that the publication that put it out is reparable, and they stand by their work. So I just don't get how we can be broke at this point. That doesn't make any sense to me.
So what are your thoughts on this new OC and the go-go offense that seems to rely heavily on the running game?
Yes, sir.
And that's kind of the big selling point. Deion for 3 years, or the Buffaloes for 3 years, have been throwing the ball constantly. You got Juju Lewis, who everybody is selling as the next great quarterback, and it's primarily because of his arm. And now they're bringing in an offensive coordinator who seems to specialize in running the ball. This seems like a pretty big, significant pivot. What do you make of that?
It gives me a lot of faith that they can fix the problem, because I have been beating the drum since day one. I mean, they're quoting me in the North Dakota State CU game last year, is talking about if Shedeur Sanders has any support, he could probably do anything. He had a 110th ranked rushing offense or something, and they still won 9 games. So this year they ran the ball better, but they didn't commit to it. They have a running the ball commitment problem. They have 3 offensive line coaches. That's too many. I'm hoping that the head coach offensive coordinator they just hired can come in and establish his program, bring in his people, teach it his way without any interference, without any, going to the head coach and complaining and getting the offensive coordinator fired, which happened already. I mean, to assume that Coach Lewis was demoted and relieved of his duties because he wasn't super hard on Shedeur is ridiculous. I think he was unbelievably hard on Shedeur, and he didn't like it. And the dominoes fell the way they did 2 years ago. So there's a reason Coach Lewis isn't there anymore. So they tried this already once. I think that Coach Prime is learning from his mistakes the first time around. I think that he had an established college coach that probably knew the college game and the system and how to really attack people, if he was just given the opportunity to do so, and that was taken away from him. So now going back on this and kind of revisiting the past from hiring a head coach to be your offensive coordinator and run the offense, I think now Coach Prime can step back. Number one, because it's not his son. It's just another player. I know Juju's a great player, but to Coach Prime, he's a player. He's not his son. So I think that will help. And just let the offensive coordinator go offensive coordinate, run the go-go. If they need to run the ball 50 times to win, that's what you need to do. It's one of my biggest pet peeves with this team is they won't change. They just consistently do the same crap over and over and over and over again, and then expect everybody to just smile and say thank you. And that's not the way football works. So I'm very encouraged that they're changing. I'm very encouraged that Coach Prime is relinquishing some power. I'm very encouraged that they're bringing in such an innovative young coach that can hopefully relate to this generation of player and motivate them, that runs the football. Hopefully it keeps, and I'm just going off the top of my head here, hopefully it keeps the offensive guys like Juju and Seton and the Miller brothers and, the other young guys on the roster. And then hopefully it encourages the other young cats on the roster like Merritt and McPherson and Byard and Slaughter and, Davis Swain, all these young high school kids that have all developed into studs for CU to stay there and build a foundation with Coach Prime. So there's so many moving pieces. The transfer portal stuff's going to be really crazy. They're going to have to bring in 60 some odd people in the transfer portal this year with only 11 high school commits. That's a lot. So I'm more concerned about the personnel now than the coaching staff. I really like this move. I'm eager to see what else they do, if they do anything else. But I'm not too mad at Coach Prime. Full circle back, Jason, with the docking of the pay stuff. If they need the money in the athletic department, that's one thing. But I think it sends a clear message to the coaches that if you're not going to do your job, this is going to be one of the consequences of it. Now, should he also dock himself? Probably, but usually the boss doesn't do that. So I'm just saying, and I wouldn't expect him to, honestly.
If I'm Juju Lewis and I came to Colorado, hey, I'm going to run the offense Shedeur just ran.
Right.
And now I'm going to run the go-go offense. You're confident Juju won't stick his head in that transfer portal?
No, I'm not confident that anybody won't stick their head in the transfer portal, and that goes to literally anybody in the country because college football is so insane right now. And tampering, when I say tampering's legal, I mean you can just call somebody and be like, hey, you want to come play for me? And all of a sudden you're having a conversation and the kid's in the locker room of the school he plays at. So, look, I think that Juju and his father, TC, who's a football guy and knows his stuff. I've talked to him many times on the phone. He's a really good dude. He's got his head on straight, who's wants the best for his kid. I think that they look at this and go, this is a huge opportunity to run a really efficient offense. But you got to understand that Juju isn't a run-first guy, and there's a lot of zone read RPO mixed into this. So now is this a good fit for him? And that's something that him and his father and his team have to figure out with the coaching staff at CU. And they may have to acclimate a couple of things to accommodate an elite talent like Juju rather than having to go find a quarterback to fit the system. So I think Juju can morph into any system that he's put in as long as they support him. Like running the football and RPO looks, that's everywhere. It's part of the offense last year. They're just not dedicated to one thing. They're not dedicated to the running game. They're not dedicated to the RPO game. They're just doing stuff. I think that this coach has a philosophy and is going to, regardless of the personnel, he's going to run his system. And, if Juju is what I think he is, he should be able to step in and acclimate and really get along with this guy well and show his versatility, both throwing the football, but also being an athlete, because I think he's extremely underrated at that position.
I'm going to get you out of here with this question. It's a big one, though. Has this crossed your mind? And it's because it's crossed mine. Man, Deion just went out and hired a guy with head coaching experience. Seems like a young black dude. Not seems like, he is a young black dude. Seems like he fits the culture that Deion, kind of the rap culture, guy's got a neck tattoo and tats and all this other stuff. It feels to me like Deion hired his successor, and that Deion's going to do one more year, and hopefully they'll win 6-7 games, and he can say, yeah, and I discipled and mentored and turned this over to Brennan, and I'm stepping away. But if they only win 4 or 5 games or 3, then Deion's just out of there, and people are like, man, a lot of hype, one halfway decent season, and a lot of failure. But this to me feels like that Deion and Colorado have hired his replacement potentially as early as after next season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can't make that assumption looking at this. You know, anybody who says that that's hating or crazy, you're looking at it through prime sexual glasses. I mean, it's a fact. So you have to take that into consideration, especially with Deion's, you know, age and the blood clots and cancer and getting his toes chopped off. I mean, to say he's not tough, there's no way that's true. He's one tough SOB. It's just eventually this kind of stuff catches up with you. His kids are gone. His son's in the league. He wants to watch him play. I get all that. I truly believe this, and this isn't a Deion thing. This is a state of college football thing. If they have another bad year next year, like you said, everybody's gone anyway, so it really doesn't matter. If they have a good year next year and they make a bowl game and they can figure out how to turn this around, which I believe they will, I could see a world where Coach Prime would feel comfortable stepping away and handing it off to somebody that he handpicked, which essentially makes him the new athletic director, with Rick George stepping down. And I wouldn't have a problem with that necessarily. He's not going to be the coach here for 20 years. And it's just the way things work. It's the natural progression of things. So do I want him to stay and fix this and build it and keep going and turn it around next year and win and, you know, make everybody eat crow? Absolutely, I do. Do I think they can? If they can keep their young core and develop them and this offensive system works, and they can sprinkle in, you know, good transfer portal players, not just mercenaries looking for a check, but it goes both ways because you still have to coach and develop mercenaries, even though you brought them in. So, you know, there's so many moving pieces here. Again, is this what Coach Prime expected? You know, we're talking about Kleiman retiring and Saban retiring and these older guys stepping away. I would almost question to Coach Prime, like, is this what you expected? 3 years in, going on 4, is this everything you expect? Because I think he had the expectation, especially after like Jordan Seaton's commitment and Travis coming with him, that guys would literally, 5 stars would just flock to Boulder. And my biggest criticism of Coach Prime is he won't leave the castle to recruit. He won't even go to Cherry Creek, where Dave Logan, who's a great buff, is the coach. He won't go to Valor, where Coach Sanford, who was the intern coach there, is the head coach. He's never been to 6-0, where we've literally got 30 Division I offensive and defensive linemen working out at any time, like guys that signed with SC in Oklahoma 2 days ago. They're the top 20 players in the state of Colorado. We're all signing with BYU and Kansas State and Michigan and SC and Oklahoma, and not one was in Boulder. So that also needs to be something that's looked at. And maybe, you know, Coach Prime can now just CEO and send Marion on the road to go do his bidding. And that, you know, as a head coach, maybe that will work. But I keep going back to this, Whitlock, is the power of Coach Prime is how he makes other people feel. And I think he's lost a little bit of that up in Boulder, because if he were to walk into Cherry Creek High School, they had 10 guys signed D1 yesterday, 10. They're going to win the state title on Saturday, I'm sure. Ralston Valley is a fine team, but Creek's 6-time defending champions. All they do is pump out Division I players, and they got another crop coming up that are equally as good. Jackson Roper is the number 1 player in the state. CU offered him 18th. Reese Russell is the number 2 player in the state. His dad's Matt Russell. He plays guard, center, and tackle. Matt Russell won the buckets at CU. They offered Reese like 15th. So they've got to do a better job of identifying in-state talent that wants to play at Colorado, not just wants to play for Coach Prime, and mixing it all together. And then I think they're going to have an unstoppable monster. But, that requires another hard look in the mirror and some self-evaluation and the ability to say, maybe I was wrong about this. Let's try it this way. And that's again, I understand how much of a huge ask that is when you are Coach Prime. I understand he's got the persona, and he says he's never going to leave the castle, and everybody has to come to him, and he's going to stand by it, and he's going to die on that hill. And if it works, I'm with it. But right now, I don't think it is. And when you have 11 guys in a high school class and 1 kid from Colorado, and the kid from Thompson Valley they signed, the Manu kid, he's a great prospect. He was committed to San Jose State beforehand. He's not going to help them now. I doubt he helps them next year. If he's even there in 3 years, maybe he can develop into a big eater on the offensive line for him. But I think that's the next step to really bring this all together and fix some of these problems. But I will say this. I didn't expect a whole lot of change. I didn't expect a whole lot of compromise. I didn't expect a whole lot of, let's do this in order to get better. I thought that they would kind of just repeat and bring it back. So I'm glad that they are moving forward proactively to try and change some of these problems to win, because that's really what it comes down to in the end. If they can figure out a way to change this around and win some football games, the narrative will change. It may not change from a cultural standpoint, or, people may not like this or that, but it will change the narrative of whether or not he can coach. He'll have 2 good seasons and 2 bowl games and 2 bad seasons, and then we'll get a 5th year to see if we can break the tie.
Matt,
it's crazy,
thank
man.
you so much. Great job as always. We'll see you next time. That was Matt McChesney, former Colorado Buff grade, former NFL player, giving us an update, our daily dose of Deion. There you have it. I'm now fixed and ready to go into the weekend. Before we get to JB and a little bit more fun, I want to remind you all the most important thing you can do is join Blaze TV today, and you can do it by going to fearlessmission.com. You can get $20 off right now for as little as $8 a month. You can be a part of shaping the future. That's fearlessmission.com. I want to remind you why this is important. Do you see what I do here every day? I think we have one of the most honest shows, one of the most objective shows, one of the most fearless shows in all of American podcasting. I say what I want. I say what I think. I don't sit here and have to sugarcoat things. And the only way I can do that is by not having to depend on YouTube, by not having to depend on Apple and these systems that we don't control. And in order for me to be uncontrollable, I need more support, and we need more subscribers for you. And I get it. You're sitting there, oh man, Blaze got plenty of money and blah, blah, blah. Hey man, freedom, you got to buy your way into freedom. And in order to do that, it's you supporting me and supporting what we do here at Fearless. Go to fearlessmission.com. Please become a subscriber. It's important if you like what we're doing here on Fearless. Let's bring in JB. JB, you ready to roll today? We got a lot to talk about, or some things I think that you would certainly be interested in. Let's start with last night's Cowboys meltdown. I was someone that foolishly bought into the Cowboys and thought, hey man, they're gonna go on a nice little run here and make the playoffs. I no longer think that. That was one of the worst defensive efforts, one of the worst efforts I've seen from an individual player in George Pickens last night. Are you surprised?
No, they are who we thought they were. That's why I told Sean, you must have listened to Sean King too much. He said they were the best team in football on my show yesterday, and I almost laughed. I almost hung up on him like you did me a couple years ago. I said, listen, they are who we thought they were. You got overpaid, under-delivering quarterback, and you have what we call.
Why are you going to take a shot at Dak when George Pickens was so trash? But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is what you get. Mike Tomlin, as much heat as he's taking right now, there's a reason he got rid of George Pickens. When you're a top-tier talent that George Pickens is, but you're an A1 class cancer to the locker, there's 100 George Pickenses out there that I can pay $40 million a year to get that effort, is my point. Because we got loafs and disregard for my teammates when I'm on the backside of a run play, Jason, and I literally watched him last night walk. That's a fundamental problem that I have. And I'm not paying that guy. And hopefully the NFL, not to count pockets, but the NFL hopefully saw that. Because, listen, we get what he's done through 6 weeks, 7 weeks, the last 7, 8 weeks, leading the league and receiving and all this stuff. We see all that. But that's when everything's going perfect. But when the lights get bright and you got to get in that dark alley alone, this is who you are. You become a coward. You turn down physicality. You won't go POA the backside, point of attack, the backside of a run play, which if you went full speed, Jason, guess what? Opens up the playbook for my head coach who calls the plays, because if you're going on the backside of a run play full go, I can run play action now and really sell people, and you don't know if you're getting the ball or not. But we don't do that. We just walk off the line of scrimmage. By the way, you got Najee Harris' knee blown out last year in Pittsburgh because he walked off the line of scrimmage in the goal line, if we remember that. And that's why Tomlin's last straw was like, get out of here. I don't care how good you are talent-wise. You're a cancer. And that is now permeating through this entire roster. And that's the Cowboys. And Jason, yesterday, Sean King was anointing Jerry Jones, as we owe him apologies. He got us. He did the greatest thing ever in this trade, and he got rid of a cancer in Micah Parsons, and he gained Quentin Williams, and blah, blah, blah. Stop it, Jason. Stop it. Jerry Jones, you didn't do anything. You need to go full-time, be on Landman, and be an actor. This is over. This is the team we thought they were. You guys are bad. You got some bad apples, and you need to clean house. I wouldn't pay George Pickens next year either. Jason, I wouldn't pay him. I'm getting rid of him.
Hey, I'm snitching on you. I just texted Sean that you're trashing him right now on my show.
He knows.
And you're right, he is a cancer, and he'll set off other forms of cancer. Debbie, I watched that game. I've never seen more defensive players, and I'm not talking about front four players, I'm talking about back seven players, fall down. If Jahmyr Gibbs did any type of move, these guys fell to the ground. And I've never seen professional athletes that look that unathletic or that engaged in the game. I've never seen it.
This team, man, I don't know. I'm just telling you. And listen, I'm not getting Dak Prescott. $60 million. Damn right, Jason. I'm gonna critique you. Don't. He ain't above $60 million. You're a $60 million guy, Jason. You're overpaid, under deliver. Listen, and I felt his pain last night watching that. We call crap bird in Pickens, but when you don't work back to the ball, and you loaf and run a post route, and you don't even give effort to catch it, and I see you allow a pick on the other side, and then don't go get the run game fit and get the safety. I felt Dak as a quarterback, former quarterback. I'm watching it, I'm looking at the read, and now I know this guy is a dead read, Jason. And then I got to realize CeeDee Lamb's out of the game because he's hurt. This is the time when you show us to pay you. This is the time you say, all right, this guy's impacting the rest of the team. CeeDee Lamb goes out. George Pickens has the whole world watching. This is the time that you become a leader, not a follower. But nope, he couldn't do it. That's true colors. That's who he is. I couldn't work back for my quarterback. I couldn't get out of bounds. I couldn't save a pick. I couldn't fight for my team. Nah, I felt Dak on that. But I also say, Dak, you made horrible decisions on those two picks, and that's who Dak is. When it gets tough, That's who Dak is. This is the Cowboys, man, in summation. That's who they are.
I said this, I believe, this morning on a conference call, and John Hadley, who I try to ignore at all times, kind of I was like, hey, man, why didn't someone chew out? Somebody, Dak, Brian Schottenheimer, somebody should have gotten George Pickens' face last night, and Hadley was caping up for him, and he'll go into a toilet on you or whatever. But
it's ridiculous.
Somebody on that team should have called him out during the game.
Well, Troy Aikman will. That's the only guy that has the sack enough on TV to actually call people out. And he calls his own.
Richard Sherman did it right after the game.
Yeah,
Richard Sherman called him out.
Because Jason, I try to tell Smitty, of course, defending him today. I try to tell you, we can find
hold on. Darnell defended Pickens.
He didn't defend Pickens, but he knows that he said the poll question was, would you pay George Pickens? And he's like, of course you have to. He's a great. I said, no, you don't have to. See, that's the problem. That's why we are in the situation we're in. We think we have to pay these guys. When you pay this guy, now you are limited on the roster, and now he owns you. So he owns the Dallas Cowboys if you pay this guy. I would tell him, go shop. Here's why you don't pay him, Jason, and I killed Smitty with this take right here. I don't pay him because I don't fear him playing against me next year. See, if I feared him playing against me, coming back to Dallas and owning me and dominating me, then I pay him to keep him. I don't fear him. I know your deepest secrets. I know how to beat you. I know how to get in your ear. I know how to create and make you look bipolar again. And guess what? They know that. And so does the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so will the third team that he ends up going to and gets rid of, because this is who he is. I don't fear you. I know you're easily manipulated. You're easily manipulated. You're a head case. You don't have any tough skin, Jason. I can get in your ear and talk about your baby mama and you're done. So I'm ready to say, let him go.
I can't believe Smitty offered up any type of defense here. I got to get Smitty on here with you. So you got to see, if you understood Warren Central in the high school that me and Smitty came from, I can't believe he's saying that, because nothing but dogs come out of our high school. We've never had a player that didn't want to play and would actually lay down during the game. I can't believe Smitty should have been appalled by that. Darren Evans, Dean Tate, I don't know how many, David Bell, Sheldon Day. They would all smack the taste out of Darnell's mouth if he defended that type of effort.
It was just on Tuesday. He told him that. So, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. All right. We'll get Darnell. I got to help you call him out. Anyway, let me move to college football. I've been arguing all week that Notre Dame is a better football team than Miami right now. And I would have no problem if Miami gets left out of the playoff system and Notre Dame gets let in. Am I crazy?
Yes, absolutely. 1,000% crazy. As crazy as that hat you're wearing. It's a mockery if you allow this. If what you just said happens, it's a mockery. We're setting this thing up for 10 years of back. This will be set back so bad. First of all, I said you never should have got rid of the 14 playoff, number one. Number two, this is a joke. Now, let's be honest real quick. And I just want to drop the mic on you real fast. Can you tell me where Texas and Vanderbilt are ranked right now?
Texas and Vanderbilt. I thought I looked it up. Is Texas?
Tell me where they're ranked.
Hold on. I don't know.
Who's ranked higher?
Texas is.
Why?
Because they have Arch Manning and they're Texas, and there's probably a big television draw.
Stop. Because they beat Vanderbilt head to head.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
that's a fact. And that's by the committee's reasoning.
Gotcha.
So how the hell is Notre Dame ranked ahead of Miami when Miami beat them head to head? There is a huge hypocritical system in place, Jason. And you can't sit here and tell me one team that Notre Dame's beaten this year that carries any weight when it comes to a blue blood program. Tell me a team that Notre Dame beat.
USC.
If you say Pittsburgh, I'm going to hang up.
I said USC.
USC's horrible. They were 23rd at the time.
They're blue blood.
They're horrible.
That's not what you said. They're blue blood.
USC doesn't belong in. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Hypocrisy, 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 hypocrisy. Stop. We cannot set this precedent. Miami has 4 top 25 wins, Jason. The committee said.
And a loss to SMU, and who else am I not?
I don't care. Because
Louisville.
guess what?
Louisville and SMU. Yeah.
You lost head-to-head. Carson Beck, if we're going to hold
in exhibition season, they lost. Week 1
we're going to hold Florida
exhibition
State
season.
out of a playoff 2 years ago for the quarterback being out of the game and on an undefeated team. If we're going to hold the quarterback play in that high regard, then I better look at how good Carson Beck's playing right now versus how good the quarterback at Notre Dame's playing right now, because that matters. And how bad Mateer looks at Oklahoma, and how bad or good Arch Manning is looking. I got to weigh in and say quarterback play matters so much. And we left Florida State out 2 years ago. Then I got to look at the quarterback play now. But you know why we can't do that? Because we have people like Condoleezza Rice and a bunch of nobodies on this committee. That's the problem. We got people that never played football on the committee.
Let me ask you this. That luxurious 5-bedroom home that you live in out in California.
Nah.
If I were to approach you and say, JB, you got to bet that house of yours if Notre Dame and Miami played tomorrow Saturday, who would you pick? If your house was riding on Notre Dame versus Miami tomorrow, who do you think would win that game?
You sound very liberal right now. And I'm very disappointed how left-leaning you sound right now on this show. Here's the reason. See, you're just like a liberal. What happens is when liberals, they get their butts whipped early, and then some time passes, and then they see some things happen, and then they forget about their getting their butts whipped early, and they forget about the fact that they've already faced head-to-head, and they remember, and they're like, oh, now, though, bet your house. Oh, we're going to get you back. Stop, Jason. They faced each other already. The committee said head-to-head competition versus each other. The committee also said drop your nuts and go play somebody, Jason. What'd Texas do game 1? Who has Ohio State played since Texas? Please don't take Michigan. Who have they played? Well, Ohio State's about to get upset by Indiana tomorrow. Ohio State's about to get upset because it's the first quarterback wideout offensive schematics they faced all year long. Ohio State has played 0 QBs all year, played 0 offense all year, and we're anointing this defense as the greatest defense of all time. Stop it. The head-to-head game matters, Jason. Do you have to give Miami the credit
You're making 10 different points. Ohio State is going to win that game by 2 touchdowns. I will bet my house on that.
Right. Oh, you better be careful. Prime sexuals are out there.
Ohio State is going, and I'm from Indiana. I'm rooting for Kirk Cignetti. Their defensive coordinator is a great former Ball State football player, Brian Haynes. I'm rooting for Indiana. I know one thing. My first sports writing job was in Bloomington, Indiana. I know what happens to the Indiana Hoosiers when Ohio State lines up to play football against them. Indiana does not win those games. And I don't care if it's Bill Mallory, Kirk Cignetti, Bill Lynch, or Bobby Knight is coaching the team. Ohio State will beat Indiana by 2 touchdowns on Saturday. And I'm not rooting for it. I hope I'm wrong, but I know I'm not wrong.
Well, it sounds good. That's way before Portal and NIL. This is way before. That's when people actually were from Indiana and from Ohio that played each other, and I get your point on that. But this is no longer that. This is Floridians and Californians and people that were at the school a month ago and now are at the other school. So stop. These guys don't care about their commit. They don't know anything about Indiana when Mallory was there, when I signed in Indiana in '93, when they had Alex Smith, the best white running back y'all have ever had. So listen, I get it. They don't have a clue who any history is at these places no more. They don't care. So Indiana's going to come out there. They're going to give them they're going to give Ohio State, presenting them problems they haven't faced all year long with a competent quarterback and a competent play caller. They haven't seen anything. Arch Manning didn't even know who he was when they played him. And guess what? You know what Texas did against Ohio State that game, week 1? Outgained Ohio State by 200 yards. That bad, horrible-looking offense with Arch Manning outgained Ohio State by 200 yards, Jason. That's how bad Ohio State is. They're fugazi. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying stock in Ohio State this year. I'm just telling you right now. Yeah, he called me crazy. Well, I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, we'll discuss this Saturday night. Look, I hope I'm wrong, but I know I'm not. There's one. I know Ohio State, Indiana. Ohio State won that game by 2 touchdowns.
You also took Colorado when I told you they're going to get woodshedded by Arizona. I told you to take that bet. You didn't. You didn't listen to me. But go ahead.
I did not. Hadley, have I bet? And this is the other reason why I know you're wrong. Hadley thinks IU's going to win too. That's a really bad sign for you. But have I picked? Did I pick Colorado at some point this year?
Yeah, you took Colorado Iowa State game. I told you not to. I told you to take Colorado. You took Colorado over Arizona the day I was on. I told you not to. They actually got woodshedded. John Hadley texted me and said, "God, you're right. You're right. You were right yesterday." I said, "I know I was. I'm always right." And so that's just kind of how it works.
Alabama. Can they make the playoffs if they lose?
They better be in. They better be in no matter what. See, you can't.
3-loss Alabama team.
See, Jason, it's back to Notre Dame Miami question. You cannot have it that way and think this is going to grow the sport or this playoff scenario of 16 teams. So you're telling me that a team sitting out right now in Ole Miss, Vandy, Texas, teams that are having a bye week because they were not good enough to play for a championship deserves to get in, but the team playing for the championship who already beat the team they're about to play does not. Make it make sense. This is an absolute
3
mockery.
losses.
Huh?
How many losses can you have and win a championship? This is why I've never liked the playoff system. We should continue to vote on the national title, this whole playoff system. Now we're going to have a 3-loss team competing for a national championship.
Well, I told you guys, you wanted more. More is less. I told you guys, more is less. Listen, I'm not with this playoff thing. I think 4 teams is perfect. It's great competition. And 4 teams allows you to compete
voting.
in the offseason. Yeah, go back to BCS. That's all I care. Because it's coming. It's going to be AI voting here soon. Watch. It'll be AI.
No, I don't want BCS. I want to go back to voting. I want to go back to mythical national championship.
Yeah,
a lot of good sports bar arguments.
Too much money now. And the bottom line is this. You can talk about revenue share, TV contracts, whatever you want to talk about. At the end of the day, Alabama already beat Georgia. Kalen DeBoer, for much as heat as he is at replacing Nick Saban, is 2-0 versus Kirby Smart. So you're just going to leave them out for getting back to a title game against a team they already beat, who a lot of people have as a favorite to win the Natty. You're going to beat them once and lose to them once and put them out of the playoff. Stop. You can't. You can't. And hold on, though. See, I'm going to cook your whole audience here. So you're going to keep Texas out, right? Because they lost to Florida. When Florida at the time was playing for their head coach who had a top 3 defense in the nation, no one wants to talk about. But you're going to hold them out for losing to Florida State, correct? Wait up, though. So Florida State beats them in week 1. You're going to hold them out for that, and you're going to hold out Texas for losing to Ohio State week 1. But you're not going to hold out Notre Dame for losing to Miami head-to-head? Stop. What are we doing? This is the biggest hypocritical voting process in the history of football. You can't have your cake and eat it too, Jason. Alabama's in the SEC. They're not in the Big 10, the Big 12, etc. They are going to get in. If they don't, you're going to have anarchy. And I'm going to take it a step further.
3 strikes, you're out at the old.
So let me ask you this. For BYU, if they lose to Texas Tech, Jason, it'll be 2 strikes, you're out. Are you going to keep BYU out?
BYU doesn't belong in the playoffs. BYU doesn't belong. They're not a legitimate playoff team in the first place. It's the Big 12. BYU.
Hold on.
Real. And I like BYU.
The Big 12 this year is better than the Big 10.
Some of the best women on the planet.
The Big 12 this year is better than the Big 10. What? Yes, I said it. Arizona State, Arizona, Utah,
What did he just
BYU,
say? He just said the Big Ten.
Texas Tech. Hold on. Utah, Arizona State, Arizona, BYU, Texas Tech will beat any of the mid competition from the lower half in the Big Ten. They'll beat all of them. Name me a Big Ten team. Penn State? Yeah, that worked out well. Michigan is Fugazi. They lost to USC. They're horrible. Who else? Northwestern?
Illinois.
Who's in the Big Ten this year that's so good? None of those teams are better than the teams I just mentioned, other than Ohio State and Indiana. None. So you got this year, I'm talking this year. We can't use history here and go back 5 years. This year is who you're voting on to get in the playoff. BYU absolutely belongs in. You lost your quarterback 3 weeks before the season. You're playing number 47, and you're in a playoff hunt. And one loss, Jason, in the second-best conference in football this year. One loss. And you're going to kick them out for James Madison and Tulane, who, let's be honest, are ranked 20th and 25th. And we think this is a great system. First of all, mid-majors don't belong. They don't belong in a top 12 scenario. Get rid of them. I would put the entire SEC in this thing and make it a round robin. If I'm the commissioner, I want to see the best football. I don't want to see these gifted awards, Jason. What are we? Mediocrity is the new excellence, man.
So when Texas Tech beats BYU by 24 this weekend, you think BYU would have a case to be in the playoffs when they lose to Texas Tech by 24 this weekend?
Yep. Why not? So the teams that didn't play because they weren't good enough to play for a title deserves in, but BYU, the team that had to put their nuts on the line and go out and play for a title, doesn't get in? What are we setting? What precedent are we setting here? So let me ask you this, Jason. So next year, when I have an opportunity to play for the conference title, I'm going to lose the last game of the year, so I don't play in it, so I can get in the playoff. Think about that.
I didn't
That's
create
what you're
this corrupt
setting.
system.
That's what you're setting
I didn't
up.
want playoffs. I got it. They got a bad system, and now we're going to put more mistakes on top of the bad system, and now we got to put teams like BYU. Had a nice season. Pat them on the butt. Great job, guys. But
Who do you
not
put in
playoff.
for them?
Hell, I'd put Alabama in. I'd put Illinois in.
That's what I'm saying. Like, my point is, you're going to put James Madison and James Madison and Tulane. By the way, either one of them have a head coach either. So what are we doing here?
JB, let me just repeat. I got to let you go there. Hadley's telling me I got other stuff to do.
By the way, Colorado,
State
that's a
14.
hire that you took from the head coaching job. I heard inside information. I told Matt he's the coach in waiting because you don't leave Sacramento State. You don't leave it for that.
Well, now JB is just repeating my talking points. I've already said that, JB. I said that on today's show.
But I said it before you. I said it on 6 in the morning.
6 or 7. Oh, well, there you go. JB,
you ever going to come out and eat
always.
Real barbecue? You going to ever come out and eat real barbecue?
Let me say this. If Ohio State doesn't win by 2 touchdowns, not only will I come out and eat barbecue, I'll pay for all the food, all the alcohol, all the food. It'll all be on me. You just got to cook it.
Oh,
if Ohio State doesn't win by 2 touchdowns.
We've had these bets before, and you didn't show up. So I'm just saying.
Well, I know. Anyway.
I
gotta go. I got my fearless 5 picks here, and Ohio State is at the top of that list here. Let's get to it. The fearless 5. Maybe not. Do the calculations. I didn't pick last week because the Thanksgiving holiday saved me from embarrassing myself last week. So do we have my updated record, Justin? I hope you look. Did y'all put together my updated record? If I don't, who? I'm 20. I don't want. Never mind. I don't want to talk about it then. If it's that, I had that bad of a week before. Anyway. I'm just below 500. Things go right this week, I'll be even closer to 500. How about that? There's that. Go back. Go back. There we go. Yeah. Texans versus the Chiefs. Guys, you're not helping me out here in the prompter. I got to come up with my own point spread, the whole 9 yards. There we go. Texans plus 3.5 at the Chiefs. There we go. I love the Texans here. No one wants to admit that my Kansas City Chiefs are hot garbage this year. The Texans defense is for real. It's not going to happen. My pick is the Texans plus 3.5. They win outright. Seahawks -7 at the Falcons. Seahawks some days are my favorite team in the National Football League, but here's what I know. They got a front four and a defense that is for real. The Falcons will barely cross the 50-yard line. I don't care whether it's Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix, or Michael Vick that plays quarterback. The Seahawks will cover this 7 easily. This is probably like a 20-point Seahawks victory. Book it, Dano. The Commanders plus 1.5 at the Vikings. What are we going on? How are the Commanders getting any points here? Are you not watching Marcus Mariota? He's the best backup quarterback in all the National Football League, and he's certainly better than Max Bromser and J.J. McCarthy. The Commanders, 1.5, they're getting. They win this game outright by 4 or 5 points. Book it, Dano. The Jaguars, plus 1.5 versus the Colts. Is anybody, listen, I love the Colts. I love what they were doing this year, but they've fallen off a cliff. Daniel Jones, falling off a cliff. They should have never traded for Sauce Gardner. They needed a number 1 wide receiver. I love the Jaguars plus 1.5. They win outright. And finally, you've already heard me tell you guys, I'm betting my house. My house is paid for, by the way. I'm betting my house on Ohio State -4 versus Indiana in the Big 12 championship game. Those tickets in Indianapolis are crazy. Ohio State is going to beat the brakes off of Indiana. That's what Ohio State does. They cover this. Hadley thinks Indiana's going to win outright. JB thinks Indiana's going to win outright. Those two guys together, if you combine their IQ, it won't be enough points to cover what Ohio State's going to do to Indiana. And so, Hadley's IQ is around 17, JB's around 19. So that means Indiana might score 36 points, and that means Ohio State may score 51. How you like them? All right, so there's my Fearless 5. I'm inching closer to 500. I appreciate you. Oh, now they want to put my record up and embarrass me. Oh, I went 3-2. So put that back up. I went 3-2. I didn't know I made. Put that record back up. I got something to brag about. No one wants to put my record up. There we go. Leave it up. Yeah. Previous week I was 3-2. 24-35. That's not good. That's not good. All right, I gotta go. We gotta get to Harmony. Got a good Harmony show. We're gonna talk about Candace Owens versus TPUSA. I got Shamika Michelle, I got Virgil, and I got Dre Baldwin. We'll be there in 7 minutes. Enjoy your weekend. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.